Chapter number 16. Key takeaways. Internal audit provides independent assurance on the effectiveness of the internal controls and the risk management process to enhance governance and achieve organizational objectives. It is mandatory for all listed companies, unlisted public companies, or private companies fulfilling certain criteria to appoint internal auditor in accordance with the provisions of Section 138 of Companies Act 2013 and relevant rules. The internal auditor shall either be a chartered accountant or a cost accountant, whether engaged in practice or not, or such other professional as may be decided by the board to conduct an internal audit of the functions and activities of the company in terms of Section 138 of Companies Act 2013. He may or may not be employee of the company. In such companies specified in Section 138 of Companies Act 2013, the audit committee or the board, in conjunction with the management and the chief of internal audit, is expected to exercise the responsibility to formulate the objectives of internal audit. Basic principles governing an internal audit includes independence, integrity, and objectivity. Each internal audit report is prepared on the basis of audit procedures conducted and the analysis of the audit evidence gathered. Conclusions reached shall be based on all the findings rather than on few deviations or issues noted. Reporting on internal audit results is generally undertaken in two stages. At the end of particular audit assignment, an internal audit report covering a specific area, function, or part of the entity is prepared by internal auditor, highlighting key observations arising from those assignments. Further, on a periodic basis, at the close of a plan period, a comprehensive report of all the internal audit activities covering the entity and the plan period is prepared by the chief internal auditor or the engagement partner in case of external service provider. Such reporting is normally done on quarterly basis and submitted to the highest governing authority responsible for internal audits, generally the audit committee. The internal auditor should review whether follow-up action is taken by the management on the basis of his report. If no action is taken within a reasonable time, he should draw the management's attention to it. Where the management has not acted upon his suggestions or not implemented his recommendations, the internal auditor should ascertain the reasons thereof. The work done by the internal auditor has an important bearing on the work performed by the statutory auditor, as evaluation done by the internal auditor in respect of the internal controls, reliability of the financial information, verification of assets, etc., is also required to be done by the external auditor. It is obligatory for a statutory auditor to examine the scope and effectiveness of the work carried out by the internal auditor. For the purpose, he should examine the internal audit department of the organization, the strength of the internal audit staff, their qualification, and their powers. The extent of independence exhibited by the internal auditor in the discharge of his duties and his status in the organization are important factors for determining the effectiveness of his audit. The external auditor should, as a part of his audit, evaluate the internal audit function to the extent he considers that it is relevant in determining the nature, timing, and extent of the compliance and substantive procedures. Nature, timing, extent of his compliance and substantive procedures. The external auditor shall not use the work of internal audit function if the external auditor determines that the function's organizational status and relevant policies and procedures do not adequately support the objectivity of the internal auditors, the function lacks sufficient competence, or the function does not apply a systematic and disciplined approach, including quality control. Standards on internal audit are recommendatory in nature. The following standards on internal audit are recommendatory in nature. The standards shall become mandatory from such date as notified by the Council. Section 1 Preface to the framework and the standards on internal audit. Section 2 Framework governing internal audits. Section 3 Basic principles of internal audit. Section 4 Standards on key concepts. 100 series. SAA 110 Nature of assurance. SAA 120 Internal controls. Section 5 Standards on internal audit management. 200 series. SAA 210 Managing the internal audit function. SAA 220 Conducting overall internal audit planning. SAA 230 Objectives of internal audit. SA 240. Using the work of an expert. Section 6. Standards on conduct of audit assignments. 300 to 400 series. SA 310. Planning the internal audit assignment. SA 320. Internal audit evidence. SA 330. Internal audit documentation. SA 350. Review and supervision of audit assignments. SA 360. Communication with management. SA 370. Reporting results. SA 390. Monitoring and reporting of prior audit issues. Section 7. Standards on internal audit. SA 5. Sampling. SA 6. Analytical procedures. SA 7. Quality assurance in internal audit. SA 11. Consideration of fraud in an internal audit. SA 13. Enterprise risk management. SA 14. Internal audit in an information technology environment. SA 17. Consideration of laws and regulations in an internal audit. SA 18. Related parties.